Sure. So Evie Magazine covered this, and we love Evie.
We do.
Riley Reid has revealed that her ex didn't want to kiss her when she came home from work, and she said that it made her feel like a disgusting person. This is from a TikTok. I don't know if we can play this on a.
We can.
It's
no,
embedded
I'm
in
not.
the
I'm not pulling
article,
anything. I'm not pulling anything up. It's gonna end up freezing the screen anyways.
Yeah. So she was talking about this on a podcast, and all of the comments are like, "Well, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to be that guy. He was valid for feeling the way he did."
Yeah.
My one gripe there is like, you knew what you were getting into when you started dating a woman who professionally does corn.
Yep.
So do you have a right to change your mind later on when you initially said you were okay with it?
Yeah, it's kind of
Maybe he
his fault.
thought she would quit. Maybe he was like, when
Did
we
he
get
think
married-
like I can fix her? Because
Yeah.
so many people go into relationships these days thinking like that they're going to change the person. And that's their mission, and that person is a project, and that's not a good idea, especially if it's someone who is like literally famous and could be recognized on the streets at this point for appearing in adult content.
Yep.
Like,
I mean,
that's-
maybe he thought, he's super trad, and he was like, hey, when we get married, she'll stop working, and I don't need to worry about her. And she was like, my job is my identity, so I have to keep working. And he didn't think about the long-term consequences.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't talk about it. Maybe it always made him uncomfortable, and then he was like, oh, wait, now that you're my wife, this is even more horrifying.
Yeah.
they were married.
No,
Is that
it
the
just,
case?
it just said
I
ex.
didn't seem like they were married, but I do remember Mia Khalifa talking about
Yep.
her marriage, and she's divorced now, and she's only
Shocking.
like 29, and she's been divorced. She was talking about this with Emily Ratatouille, both like 30, relatively young to be divorced. And of course, being stereotypical man haters about it, but you're not like evaluating the part that you yourself could have played in the downfall of that relationship.
So she thought she
said that her
hated
ex
corn.
was so anti-corn that she almost quit corn because she ended up thinking that she hated corn, but then realized that she just hated him. So she was saying this on No Jumper to Adam 22, who, by the way, dated a corn star.
Yeah.
I forget her name. Something like Lana Rhoades. Yeah, it was Lana
Okay.
Rhoades. And Lana Rhoades herself talked about being ashamed of doing corn.
And she makes
And
way
then
more money
she-
now without it anyways.
Both Mia
Like,
Khalifa
yeah.
and Lana Rhoades moved on to doing OF, sort of like lewd content rather than like hardcore
Yeah.
explicit stuff. But they feel like, now that they've taken control of it and they are able to make all of the revenue from it and not give a cut to a company that's producing it, then, that just solves all the problems. But that doesn't solve the problem of like feeling like your body belongs to the world.
Yeah.
Like losing a sense of identity. I don't think that anyone's identity should be wholly consumed by what their job is, but especially if your job is sex work.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a whole other level. Like, and you've seen that some of them are able to dissociate properly.
Mhm.
But
A lot of them.
If
in
you
the
have
industry,
to dissociate in order to cope with what your job is, maybe you should look into another line of work.
I mean, I don't know. Is it dissociation, or is it just that some of them have turned in? They figured out a commodity that they can sell
It's-
very, very well.
It's
in a way.
personality
Yeah.
switching.
Yeah. in
You're
a
like
way.
fully dissociating emotionally from your job.
Yeah.
And if you need to do that, it's probably because you think it's ethically questionable.
I think so. Riley Reid, when she does this interview, says that ultimately it was her ex who made her feel
Yeah.
disgusting. And I think that is sort of
The scapegoat.
a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And I think it's trying to say that his opinion shouldn't have mattered in any way. And I think ultimately, if you're dating someone or you're married to someone that you respect and who is someone whose character you admire, like, don't live for the world's opinion of you. You shouldn't look for affirmation from everybody all the time. But someone who's so significant to you that you're in a serious relationship with, yes, if they think badly and that makes you feel bad, like, that is a time to reconsider what you're doing. I think part of this is trying to just play it off as, well, he wasn't the right person for me because he made me feel bad about myself. Well, maybe you felt bad about yourself because he didn't respect you because of what you were doing.
Yeah.
And that's worth listening
The
to.
lack of introspection is just shocking to me. Like, that you can split your brain in half like that and not make the logical connection that maybe like your line of work is what is destroying your relationship.
Well,
think
and that you would defend your industry at all costs, right?
Yeah.
That
Well, I think
this is-
society.
You're more
has-
loyal to your industry than to your personal relationship.
Right. This industry is more important to who I am
Yeah.
than my potential, person who will be with me on my deathbed. We talk about it.
Yeah, but
with
there's no
wealth.
belief from anyone anymore. Like, I don't buy that anyone in that industry, or like, not even just that industry. A lot of people aren't actually looking at it that way. They don't think
they
of it.
should.
They
I think it's a
should,
mistake
but they
not to.
don't. Like, so it's like a lot of people. They say, look, the industry will theoretically be there longer than this person who I'm supposedly committed to because they're not. I
Right,
get,
And tell
And,
me
like-
it's a coincidence that all of these women are dating men who are, they describe as anti-corn. I mean, it's probably because what they're saying resonates with you, but you can't admit that to yourself.
I don't know.
There's
I think
another
it works
one
both
who
ways,
married
though,
a
'cause I
There was
think
another
there
one who
are-
married a pastor.
I think there are
I
guys
haven't heard
who
of
are
that
like,
situation.
I can save her. I'm anti-corn, and therefore I'll show her that her lifestyle is bad, and it doesn't win out. Partially because I think,
It's like
I don't
falling
know
in
a
love
ton
with the
about it,
prostitute.
but OnlyFans probably drives a big part of this, right? The same way that social media is addictive. Like if you were anti-influencer culture, right, and then you start dating someone who's an influencer, and you're like, but over time I'll show that that's not really the way you should live. Well, you're battling their deep-needed dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
Like you are battling against something that they have made, they make their living off doing, and they get their self-esteem from. It's tough to follow. The same thing, like if you talk to someone who has a career and like you ask them like, well, would you give it up if it would save your relationship? I think some people would want to say yes, but ultimately know that it would be very hard to divorce themselves from this thing that is core to their identity.
Yeah.
Also, correction, someone in the chat said that Adam22 is actually dating Lena the Plug, not Lana Rhodes.
Yeah. Lana Rhodes
Fact
has
check.
I believe Lana Rhodes has a kid too now. If I remember correctly.
So then
Yeah.
men don't date her?
She's well, I mean, I don't know if I don't think she's married, but I think she's single mom. Look, it is what it is for these type of things. It's shocking that they were like, I almost have to applaud like the kind of, it's not willful ignorance, but it's like, is it like a certain amount of like, you just think everything's going to work out if you just go into this relationship and don't think for a second that it's going to cause problems?
Like all of these dudes who enter
Like,
relationships with women who do corn, like
if you,
do you actually think
if they
that
work in
you
the industry,
can force her to change her lifestyle?
I mean,
like,
if
same
they
thing for
both work
all
in
of
the
the-
industry,
and do you actually think that after she leaves corn, that won't have permanent effects on her psyche that
Right.
still will ruin your relationship?
I mean, same thing for all the girls who are dating like overgrown man children, right? Like,
Yeah.
if he acts this way right now, do you think if you're just nice enough, he will change? Like, probably not. Everyone's not realistic with what they go into. I think women are more likely to enter relationships thinking like, oh, well, he'll grow up, or like it'll get better. I can change him. I can help him. But like, men are exactly the same way, and they tend to seek out damaged women because they feel like, oh, if I am masculine, I mean, I think it's subconscious. I think that they think like, if I am enough of a man, I can help her and protect her, which great instinct, but be realistic.
okay, I was wrong. She actually was married.
okay.
Oh no. Okay, her husband is not the same ex that she's talking about. She got married to her now husband in 2021.
Yeah.
But before she got married, she wrote this Instagram caption talking about how she like prioritizes this above all. She said, "Never have I had a boyfriend who is proud of my job. I've had two, quote, normal boyfriends in my adult life. Normal being that they don't do corn." So you're admitting that you're abnormal. Both of which ended in an ultimatum, corn or them. I always chose corn.
Well, they're always
I've
gonna
struggled
choose
with
their
that
industry.
choice, though wondering if I've made the right decision.
I mean, like,
But we don't normalize sacrificing your career for marriage.
Yeah,
So I
like,
think that like,
that's
yes,
a
it's
completely normal
even-
thing to do. It's just a weird industry.
Right, and even though like there are obviously more complicated implications when it's corn, I think generally there are so many women in particular who would not give up their influencer career if they knew it would ultimately lead them to a strong and healthy marriage.
Well, yeah, like
they wouldn't give up their I don't know, high-powered executive lady career for the same reason.
Of any
I'm not
job, would they do
surprised.
that?
I'm not surprised that corn is any different. I just think it should be more obvious to all parties involved that
We
like,
as a society-
the man is not going to be happy.
I think there's
with this.
something unique about this though, like being in this industry for her, because it draws people who tend to have sexual trauma. And a sign of that is that you will revisit your trauma over and over again through your sexual experiences. And another form of like confronting your shame is also to mask it as pride.
Yeah.
So, you know, if she's saying I'm proud of my work and I'm always going to choose corn over men and blah blah blah, like
A lot of
it
women will
seems
choose
more
their career
like,
over men all the time anyways. No
I
matter
know, but
what
I'm
the-
saying that
whatever-
there's a
what the
unique.
job.
I'm saying that there's a unique aspect to this, being that she is a corn star, because of the tendency of women in corn to have like experienced sexual trauma beforehand, which draws them to that industry because a lot of these women are using it to revisit their trauma over and over again to try to make sense of it, which obviously never works.
I think that's a part of it, but I do think it's similar to being addicted to getting likes on Instagram or social, right? Their sense of identity is wrapped up in this industry, and therefore they can't leave it behind, even if theoretically you could have something better if you let it go. I think for her, part of it is like she would become anonymous in some ways. If she were to say, like, I'm going to give up this career, I mean, who knows? Maybe she starts a podcast, maybe she does whatever. If she really wants to be public facing, there are other ways to do it. She doesn't have to be in porn.
Most of these women can, like, they can start their own podcast. They can do plenty
do
of things.
all
other
kinds of
than-
things.
But look,
I'm sure she
we're
has,
in
I
a
just don't
society
keep
now
up.
where there is no aspect of society that tells women that it's a good idea to give up your job for a guy anyways. So, like yes, it is unique to the situation because of what's going on with them with whatever trauma they might have gone through. But it's not like this would be very different if some dude asked his girlfriend to leave her mid-level, executive job. She would say, I love my career. Like, I want my career.
But
like,
a guy
that's-
wouldn't have even brought it up as an ultimatum like that.
I mean, what if he
If
did,
it were
though?
a normal
But
job.
What
if
if
he
you
did?
were like, you're working crazy hours, I want to start a family, I feel like we don't get to spend time together, I make enough money to support us, you have to commute on the crazy train that's dangerous. What if you have all sorts
she
of...
is on a train, I'm sure.
What if she has all sorts of great explanations as to why, like, her going to this job that is maybe hurting the relationship, that they don't need financially, you know, and
Those
she
are all
says
like,
no.
he's listing circumstantial, in this hypothetical, he's listing circumstantial things about her job. Like, your commute and you don't have enough time with me and we want to like prioritize family and stuff. Those are all circumstantial things surrounding her job. It's not like something about the job itself that
What
he's
if he's like,
pointing
you
out.
work for an
when
oil
he's saying
executive and I
you
don't like
choose
it.
corn
Yeah.
or me,
You work
he's
in a
saying
male-dominated industry,
you
so
choose-
that you're never around. You're around men all the time who hit on you constantly. It makes me uncomfortable. And she's like, "Nope, I love my job. I love
Even
working for
that,
this company. I won't
it's
change
still
companies."
circumstantial because like it's not her job. Her like when in reality Riley Reid's job is simulating intimacy.
But he knew
on
that the
camera.
whole
What if she
time.
went behind the? What if she became just a director? Would he have a problem?
Yeah,
with
would
her
he have a
being
problem
like,
with that?
Would he have a problem? He's like, okay, you're not going to be in front of the camera anymore.
Well, I
but
have
you are
no
gonna
idea what
direct."
kind
Yeah.
of mental gymnastics this
Yeah.
guy is willing to do, but clearly a lot if he, you
Yeah.
know, stayed in this relationship this long while having a serious problem with what she does for a living.
I think he's just not being. He probably wasn't honest with her from the beginning, and I do think it probably has to do with a like, I can save or change this person instinct, which a lot of people have, and I don't want to say that that's the. It's not the end of the world to feel that way. You just have to be realistic without it. If he never said, "Hey, it actually makes me uncomfortable that you do porn, and eventually I'm going to ask you to leave," if we were to get more serious or we were to do whatever, then he came into this not being honest with himself. And if she knew that it made him uncomfortable and expected that to change, then she's also being unrealistic.
they're both kind of deluding themselves, and that's why the relationship didn't work.
It's I mean,
But
it's
Mia
all-
Khalifa said, like, I got into this relationship with this guy, got married, and then later on he said that the fact that I did corn in the past made him uncomfortable. Like, you can't predict that.
I mean,
And that's why, like, the permanent consequences of this line of work need to be like young women who think that this is a viable option, they need to be aware that like even if you stop, you can't just erase your past and act like it never happened.
But that's why the industry is so dangerous, because this girl is saying, I would choose this career, I would choose this industry over and over again.
And society keeps
Because
telling them that's fine and that there will be no
and
repercussions
there'll be no
whatsoever.
repercussions, but there are repercussions. We're not
Yep.
honest about it. And then at the end of the day, who do they have to turn to? The industry. It keeps them locked in. It's like someone having blackmail on you, except it's public, and that makes it worse.
The lack of honesty about the repercussions later, like as somebody who's like
It's intentional.
who's
It's totally intentional.
who's main like from society at every level, right? Like corporations, every way in which these things are promoted to the public. It's like as
especially
somebody
the
who's
MLM structure of OF.
and
The
it's-
way that you can use a referral to make money off of like smaller creators under you, as if it's like just like
Yeah.
I don't know, Mary
As-
Kay.
yeah.
Like that's like why the dishonesty has crept in part.
It's like to me as somebody who is like freedom focused first, right? Like they have the right to do it, but it does suck that society on every level isn't giving these people like the clue in like that.
I
a
think
lot of
we've
us
shown that they are not equipped to handle the freedom that they've been given. That's
I
my
mean,
take.
Not about whether they're equipped to. It's that they're right to, but that just means that there are people that will be sacrificed, unfortunately, to the industry that
That didn't need to happen though.
It's
Like there were ways to prevent that.
if freedom is in place, I don't know if there. Well, what would be the ways to prevent it?
To not give them the freedom to do it legally.
That's
What do you mean?
I mean, that could mean all sorts of things, but
What do you
I
mean
mean,
when you say it?
If this type of content were not legally hosted on the internet, just like, CP or, other types of porn, like, then this wouldn't have happened, and there would actually be obviously it's
porn existed.
unquantifiable because you'll never know the amount of people who didn't end up doing OF, right?
Yeah.
But there is a way to prevent this stuff. It's just we're all acting impotent, like we can't do anything
And
about it.
the
And
internet is the
it's in the name of
latest-
freedom.
The internet is the latest iteration, right? Like there was porn on DVDs and
Yep.
VHSs, and there was
Yeah.
Playboy magazine. It was always a way for people to find it. There were, peep shows. There were strip clubs have always been around with different levels of nudity. So this has been going on for a long time. It's more, the industry evolves with the availability of the content. But if we cut porn from the internet, there would be another version of it, right? And so at that point, like, the question to me seems like it's how do
The
you...
more difficult it is for people to access and also make this content, the better.
But then if it's
That's all
like you're
I'm
not
saying.
making content and your girlfriend dances in a strip club, I mean,
Like I
How I
never
Met Your Mother had this storyline, right?
I never
Yeah.
made a claim like if you make something illegal, it'll never happen again. Like I don't think that.
Well,
It'd
my-
be naive to think
My
that.
question is like, what are ways to make women wake up to the fact that this is a long-term consequence, that there are dangers to this industry,
Yeah.
no matter how
if we're being
glorified.
realistic, we need to figure out the ways to do that other than legislation because
Yeah.
the legislation is like kind of out of our hands for the moment.
Right, and like
you
you're
know?
saying, like we can make it illegal to stop putting it on the internet, but then maybe that'll just drive people to go in person, and maybe we'll just drive. I mean, like there is no way to stop.
Honestly,
people who
it would
want
be
this from
better if
pursuing it.
people went to strip clubs than subscribed to OnlyFans because at least then you have to actually take a risk and, kind of feel bad about yourself for physically entering with your face showing, with your ID in your pocket, with your money in your pocket, actually walking the walk of like what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like that honestly would be a better outcome than someone like subscribing to a bunch of OnlyFans.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I think just generally though, there are people who will never feel ashamed of going to. I know people who
That's, like, such a
are
cult-
happy about
yeah,
it. I know
there's-
people who have corporate jobs
Yeah.
who have told me that they would ideally become a stripper. I think that we need to find a reason that we're.
That says something horrible about working in the corporate world.
I think that we need to find a way to reach people who, for whatever reason, seek their identity through being recognized as a sexual being. And I think that is where we fall all the time because we're so afraid. I mean, I'm not afraid of it, but I think so many people are afraid of seeming too puritanical about our views on sex.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.